Hey, so continuing off from where we left off in the last video. In the last video, we talked a lot about moles and how to solve it. Now, one thing I want to start this video off with is that moles is just that number, 6.02 times 10 to the power 23. Much like how a dozen is just 12. That's how you use moles. It's just one number, and if you want to quantify something, you use moles for it, so it's easier to do it when you have a lot of things to quantify. But the process of figuring an unknown substance out just by knowing one thing and knowing the correct ratios, applying that logic is not moles really. You use moles to do it, but it's actually stoichiometry. It's called stoichiometry. It's a fancy word. I'm just saying it so you guys have an idea, right? I just realized it has borders around it and it shouldn't have had it, but oh well. But yeah, like the quicker, if you want to impress your friends, this is how you pronounce it. Stoi rhymes with toy, ki as in chubby, ometry, geometry without geo in it or g in it. Stoichiometry. I can't pronounce it. I'm just, if anyone's interested, this is how you say it. Impress your friends. All right, let's move on. So I'm about to solve this question, and the tools I need for the trade are a calculator ready at hand. Don't use your cell phone because it's going to not give you the right amount of practice, because in the exam you're not allowed to use your phones. Use a scientific calculator. It's really important. The other thing is keep your periodic table open whenever you're doing moles. Okay, let's begin. All right, so let's read the question first. What mass of magnesium oxide would be produced from 16 grams of magnesium in the reaction between magnesium and oxygen? If you understood this question, great. There were too many magnesiums for me to understand the question, so I'll just skip ahead. Like it's too technical of a question for me to understand it straight off. Like I'm not the smartest person in the room. Like I don't really get what it's trying to ask. So I don't want to spend too much time reading the question. What I've understood so far is that they're talking about the production of magnesium oxide from magnesium and oxygen. So I can start with my step one. I'll do that. So step one is going to be write the equation down and highlight the ratios. So the equation is magnesium metal reacting with O2, forming magnesium oxide. Now because it's magnesium oxide with only one oxygen, this has to be half, right? And if I highlight the ratios, I'll just use R here. For every one of these, I need 0.5 of these and one of these, similar to the question or the example we were looking at in our previous video. Okay. Step one, where it asks me to write down the equation for the reaction and highlight the ratios, that's done. So 1/3 of it is done. Okay. Next bit it's trying to ask is that, what is it asking? So if you have 16 grams of magnesium, how much magnesium oxide will be produced? So if you have 16 grams over here, like if my mass is 16 grams, how much of this would be produced? Now, I can't do it in terms of mass. I'm not like that savvy in math, or like that logic is hard to come by. So what I can do is convert everything into moles and just apply the ratios. So let's try doing that. So to convert 16 grams of magnesium into ratios, magnesium having an MR, I'm checking the periodic table, is 24. This is 24. So the moles for 16 grams of magnesium is going to be, 16 divided by 24. I'll put that in the calculator. 16 divided by 24. I'm getting 0.6666. So I'll just write that down. So the moles over here, N for moles, YN for moles, don't ask me. Okay, 0.666. Okay. Now we've already started step two. These many moles will be produced, like this is in the question. I converted them into moles. Now I have to apply the logic where figure out if I have these many moles of magnesium, how many moles of magnesium oxide will I be able to produce? अगर ये एक है तो ये एक बनेगा. This is what the recipe, so to speak, is trying to tell me. For every one of these, I'll make one of these. For every 100, I'll make 100. For every 1,000, I'll make 1,000. For every 2.5 of these, I'll make 2.5 of these. For every 0.666 of these, I'll make 0.666 of these. So I apply the ratios and I get 0.666 moles. And you're done with step 2. And in all honesty, you're done with the answer. You have the answer right here. But this is in quantity. Kitne particles banenge, right? But the question is not letting you off easy. They're kind of hard asses when it comes to these things. They're not talking about kitne banenge. ये पूछ रहा है कितना mass of magnesium oxide बनेगा. At this point, it's not too hard to find out. इतने moles का mass, इतने moles magnesium oxide के होंगे 0.666. तो magnesium oxide का mass इतना का कितना होना चाहिए? Well, that's just the MR of magnesium oxide times the moles. So the mass will be equal to, I'm just using the same mass over MR वाली equation rearranged. Mass equals to moles times the MR, which is 0.666 multiplied by the MR for magnesium is 24 and it's 16. Okay. So 24 plus 16 will give me a nice number, I think. 24 plus 16 is 40. Multiply that by 0.666. And I get 26.64. So this is 26.64 grams. All right, part B of this question is asking, what volume of oxygen would react with 16 grams of magnesium in the above reaction, right? And in this case, oxygen, so this is giving us details that each volume of a gas is 24,000 centimeter cube at RTP. So it's just giving us a hint. But take a look at this question. Before reading it, I was already intimidated by it, right? And I'm in that boat where I find scary, like I'm intimidated easily by scary looking questions or whatever, stuff like that. So here's a little trick I do to simplify my thing, like what's going on, especially if it's an MCQ, because MCQs, they only care about the correct answer rather than your process to do it. And your process will, as long as it's correct, will eventually. But you don't have to show anything, right? So let me highlight things which are redundant over here. In the above, reaction can go away because it doesn't really matter. That's garbage. We already know the reaction and we're already familiar with the question. That's garbage. What volume of oxygen would react with 16 grams of magnesium? 16 grams of magnesium. We already calculated that it comes to 0.666 moles of Mg. And all of this is trash as well, because they're giving to the question to us in a difficult format, and our life would have been easier if they just gave it in moles, but they don't do that because they're, I think this video will be taken down on YouTube if I start using adjectives. ठीक है. What volume of oxygen would react with this many moles? And the question all of a sudden, also by the way, this little next part is all trash anyway. So the question is less than 10 words right now. What volume of oxygen would react with this many moles of magnesium? ये इतने moles हैं. And if I look at my reaction, the entire thing is there. Maybe I can simplify it even further if I want to. यहाँ पे तो इसकी बात नहीं हो रही ना magnesium oxide की. So I can just remove that, because I just wanted the ratios between these two things, right? Okay. So let me do step 1. Step 1 is almost done. I'll just reiterate the ratios. It's 1 by 0.5, right? And moving on to step 2, which is almost also half done as well, is if I have 0.666 of this, I'll have how many moles of these? For every one, I need half. So for every 0.666, I'll need blank. Well, for you know the drill. And it's going to come out to be half of 0.666, which is 0.333. ठीक है? And that's it, your question is done. But, examiners being examiners, they don't want to make anything too easy. They're asking for volume of oxygen. And that's relatively very easy to do. Because the equation for that is, I'm writing it wrong. Great. The equation for that is moles of any gas are equal to 24,000 centimeter cube. Or if I want to find out the moles, I can rearrange the equation and say volume over 24,000. ठीक है? And I'll start plugging things in to find out the volume. So it's just moles 0.333 times 24,000. And this will come out to about 7992 centimeter cube. This is from memory. Let me confirm using a calculator. 24,000 times 0.333. 7992. Brilliant. ठीक है, straightforward. So I want to highlight that most questions look scary because they're really trying to be technical with you. And if anything, most questions aren't really a test of if you can do moles or not. It's more of a test of if you have a lot of data information given to you, can you extract the right amount of information and do your business? And essentially this is what it is. This question is less than 10 words right now, and it started with a small paragraph. And you'll realize most questions for moles are, इतना हमारे पास product है तो reactant कितना होगा बनेगा इससे, या इतना reactant अगर हमें चाहिए इतना बनाना है तो product कितना होगा. Essentially all moles is just these questions.